In fishing, you hear that there are a lot of hard and fast rules. One day you'll be talking to someone and they'll say, the rule is you can't catch fish on the new moon. The next day you'll talk to another guy and say, new moon fishing is the best fishing there is every single month. So you get a lot of variation in it. But one of the rules that you get very little variation in is the 90-10 rule. And it simply states that 90% of the feeding fish can be found in only 10% of the water in any given area. So 90% of the fish, 10% of the water. So as fishermen, it becomes our challenge to find that 10% of the water that's holding those actively feeding fish. I'm going to take you through today one area that you can see on the screen right now, and I'm going to show you within this area where that 10% is that you can find those 90% of the fish. Now, I'm going to go through this in more general terms. We do very detailed breakdowns within our Insider Club at Salt Strong. I'm not going to quite go to that depth, but I'm going to show you the process that you can go through to get into that 10% zone. So if we take a look at the screen, I'm using what's called Smart Fishing Spots, which is an application available to Salt Strong members, but it has multiple layers that we can view given areas with. So right now I have a Bing satellite view up here, and you can see these channels, and I'm going to be looking at this as though I'm looking for this 10% of the water for an ambush predator type of fish. So when we're talking about that, think of something like a summer or a southern or a Gulf flounder. In the Northeast, that's called a fluke, if you're talking about the summer flounder, or a weak fish, a speckled trout, a redfish. Anything along those lines that is an ambush predator type of inshore species. Now, one of the factors that you want to consider when you're looking for this 90-10 zone is the currents and what they're doing with the bait fish that are in the area. And we can take a look at this map right here, and we can see several areas that should set up some potential to hold those fish. You can see a lot of small creek systems coming out into this main channel. Up in this section, you have a larger cut through right here. You have a larger pass right through here. And then you have another one, which is a fairly significant or robust creek system that joins right in this section here and dumps out down here at the bottom. So you have a lot of water flow coming out and meeting this main channel's water flow in the intercoastal waterway. So just based on that, if that's all the information that we have, you could circle spots like this right here, this right here, this down in here. You could do this entire section here to fish this large outlet, and you could come up into this section up in here, right on the other side, down at the bottom, and you can move up the creek to these smaller outlets of creeks within this system. And there are a lot of spots there. Well, that's not the 10%. That encompasses way too much territory to be checking. So we need to narrow it down a little bit more. So what I would do in this case is take a look at the layers that are available within Smart Fishing Spots. And I start taking a look at this from different angles and different perspectives. So with that said, my first step always is to hit what's called the shaded relief. It's a 3D view of the bottom of these channels of water. So it looks flat right now, but when you hit the shaded relief, you get a much different view of the depths in the area. So here's the shaded relief view for this section. I'm going to minimize this so I don't cover it. And as we're looking for this water flow and how it's going to channel bait, we can then also combine that with the depths. So let's use, for example, in this video, a summer flounder or a fluke. The fluke is going to be looking for a predictable flow of bait into their pathway as they're sitting on the bottom and they're waiting for their ambush. Now, I circled several areas around creeks. Here's one here, there's up here, here's one down in here, here's this big one, here's another one, all of these up through this creek system, a lot of different areas. You even have them down here on the bottom, which weren't as easily viewable on the map that I just had up. So the key is to understand how are the currents moving, how is the wind influencing the currents in this specific area, and how can I best fish it for these flounder or these fluke. Now, if I'm looking at this and I'm taking the perspective of, let's say I'm fishing in July. Well, July, it's going to have warmer water temperatures. The flounder are typically going to want to get a little bit deeper into the water column into some more comfortable temperatures during the day. And in this case, you can see the deeper depths in this area are represented by these lighter greens, and these darker greens here are even deeper. And then the really shallow areas are these reds and these oranges up in this section. So what I'm specifically looking at is where can I find structure where the water flow, let's say it's an outgoing tide and it's coming down in this direction through this main channel, is going to hit some structure and funnel bait into a very predictable spot. Well, you can see right here is one of them, right at the front part of this. You can see there's another drop right here to a much deeper section. and there's yet another drop right here to this deeper section. So what I'm looking at in this area as a prime area to look for the summer flounder in the heat of the summer is up in this section here. Just in this section, I'd start a little bit above this, drift back over it and down into this flat area. I would then stop fishing. I would pick up and drift down to here and reset here, drift down this drop off into this deep section, and then right down into this drop off into this deep section, and then I would stop right here and do it again. So right here, what I've done is taken this area right here, and I've identified that as the 90-10 zone. 90% of the feeding fish are going to be in 10% of the water. This is going to be one of those zones. Now, there are a couple of others in here that you could consider. You may want to consider this ledge here. As you get the water hooking around this point over the shallows and back down, you have a little bit of a section down here that you could work as well. But for summer flounder and the temperatures in the water, you're going to want to stay typically outside of these zones here. So it automatically disqualifies the vast majority of this map. This is too shallow. This is going to be very warm, uncomfortable water for them. So by understanding that and understanding how the water flows, how these ambush predators feed, you can get into the 90-10 zone. So if you want more information about what the 90-10 zone is and how it applies in your area for your specific species, click on the link below this in the description of the video, and we'll see you over there at Salt Strong Insider Club.